Hello again to all subscribers and listeners of this channel, the Obsidian Radio YouTube channel. Today, we shall begin with this final review of the entire Season 2 of Attack on Titan. A final analysis about everything in Season 2 from beginning to end. So here we go. First thoughts. Now, this is going back many months ago, like 7-8 months ago. I was really excited for Season 2, and I have to say I'm definitely not disappointed at all. Back when the trailer came out, I want to say like December of last year, the trailer kicked ass, and that trailer delivered and delivered well. Every episode of this entire season was incredibly nicely done. There were minor flaws in some episodes, but nothing major. Not one episode had a major thing wrong with it. So all the episodes were pretty much on point. And I can't wait for Season 3. Season 3 cannot get here soon enough, but when it gets here, most likely it will be the same on point, high quality, high level awesomeness that we've seen in the first 2 seasons. So, let us break down the major overall plot line of the entirety of Season 2. Season 2's plot. Basically, Season 2 was the scouts figuring out that there are new Titans coming into the walls. Where they're coming from, while they're coming, they're not sure. But because they're inside the confines of Wall Rose, and Wall Rose had not been breached. Now, the Outer District was breached earlier in Season 1, if I remember correctly. But Eren, in his Titan form, he was able to put the giant boulder in that breach and was able to seal the wall off. So as far as we know, the interior of Wall Rose should not have any Titans in it at all whatsoever. But it does. So everyone is scrambling, trying to figure out where these Titans are coming from. And with no leads, many of the younger scouts decide to stay in the Castle Utgard, only to have Castle Utgard get assaulted by multiple swarms of Titans. Is this situation where Ymir reveals that her Titan form and she nearly dies, saving the scouts from the Titan swarm that was attacking Castle Utgard. So in the next day, they bring Ymir and the scouts onto Wall Rose. It's during this time that Reiner breaks down and decides to either convince Eren to come with him and Bertolt to the outside world, or he'll take Eren away by force. And unfortunately, Eren was taken away by force by both Bertolt and Reiner. They also took Ymir's body along with them. So they kidnap Eren, they kidnap Ymir, they run away. This leads the scouts onto another major rescue mission. The scouts chase down the kidnappers. We lose a lot of our soldiers to Titans. We go through absolute hell and are just barely able to retrieve Eren Yeager. Eren, who now seems to have accidentally awakened a new power, a power to control Titans. He's thinking that he may have to use this power, and it may be a huge difference as humanity continues to struggle for survival and in struggles to come. Now, some interesting things that I noticed about the animation, the scoring, the acting, some complaints, some other things that I noticed that were kind of a general thing throughout all of Season 2. Let me break down some things. Things that I noticed. The animation of Season 2 overall was more intense. The music was far more orchestral and more emotive. It was way more, what I say, bombastic, way more in your face, but also was tied to the situations very intimately. The acting was a bit more solid, in my opinion. Everything just seemed like it just took a much darker and more serious and more intense tone throughout this entire season. So, I'm going to break down in each particular area what was going on that was a bit different in Season 2 than in Season 1. So, in more detail. The animation, like I said, seemed darker. It was a lot slicker. Everything was more shaded than it was in season 1. There was definitely more shadow cast on characters when they were expressing emotion. A much larger portion of the season took place at night, which obviously called for darker hues for characters and backgrounds. There were more motion lines and more of those interesting effects that were used on certain scenes. Like a really good example was like when Eren and Reiner were arguing with each other in, I believe, episode 9. That's a good example of those motion lines. And there's just so much more detail drawn into how characters were expressing themselves. And a lot of scenes that didn't even look like animation. It looked like straight up completely, really nicely done artwork. So again, top-notch job to the animators who worked all throughout season 2. To me, they slightly outdid what they did in season 1. The scoring and music. Things I noticed about that. From episode 1, it was already easy to tell that the scoring was going to be on a whole other level of awesome. During the scouting formation in episode 1, Beast Titan, we see them racing on horseback, and we hear that epic music start to build up. We then see the small Titan swarm, and immediately when that one Titan does that weird 45-degree angle barrel roll thing or whatever it is, we hear some of the most epic music playing behind that Titan's running. Then there's the Beast Titan entrance, and that really much more slowed down but ominous theme, and how it plays right when he says, "You can all move now." Right when he says that quote, the music plays right there. Perfect timing, perfect scoring, perfect match to the mood of that scene. We then have the Warrior Suite, what some people call it. That's the song that plays right before Bertolt and Reiner transform on top of Walrose. That whole thing was just... That composition is one of the nicest compositions in the entire season 2. Very nice composition. And another one. Then there's the scoring for every scene in both episode 11 and 12. Completely beautiful music production from beginning to end, and the music production that was done in episode 6. So thank you, Hiroyuki Sawano. Your compositions were truly godlike and beautifully blended into the series. As far as the acting, things I noticed. I thought the acting was on point, and I'm going to break down certain characters that I think were really good when it comes to the acting. Eren sounded intense and emotional the way he's supposed to. Loved it. Armin came in with his intellect, his cleverness, and his cautious demeanor, and felt incredibly authentic every time he spoke and did or said something in the episode. So good job with him. Now Mikasa's interesting. Mikasa's voice, albeit sounded a tad rough from time to time. I think the actress went a little bit overboard in some scenes and some certain episodes. There are other episodes where she outperformed, where she just sounded completely cold-blooded and intense, but also really nice and sweet in other times. For instance, she sounded beautiful when she professed her thanks to Eren in the final episode, but she also sounded incredibly godly towards Historia in episode 11, when she made her ultimatum about whether Historia is going to choose Eren or Ymir. Go back to episode 11 and really watch what Mikasa says when she's talking to Historia. The entire speech kicked ass. So the actress who did that, I should have got their names in here, but I forgot to put their names in here. The way she did that scene was completely epic. Just loved it. Now Reiner's voice at first I thought was a little flat in the beginning of the season, but it sounded so much better in episode 6 when he was doing the transformation. And as far as I'm concerned, he got better with every episode. He talked about his role as a warrior on top of Walrose, and he kept sounding even more intense and more believable, more raw and more authentic in subsequent episodes when he's arguing with Eren, when he argued with Ymir. Just steadily, he just kept getting better and sounding better over and over the more you heard him. Bertolt's voice, even more so. I personally was worried that he was not going to sound authentic enough because he didn't talk that much. He didn't express that much emotion in the beginning of the season. But again, obviously even better than Rainer. He sounded more believable and more authentic the more you heard him. So the voice actor who played Bertolt, very good job, especially in episode 11. That whole entire speech when he's speaking to the scouts from inside Rainer's hands, I loved the dialogue there. The way he spoke, what he said, you really felt the emotion and intensity behind his words. So very good acting job. Then there's their incredibly good voice work by for Hanji, the good voice work for Erwin Smith, Ymir. She was a very good voice actress, whoever played Ymir. Historia, Jean, and so many other characters whose tone, emotion, pitch, intensity were pretty much on point the entire season. I especially loved Commander Erwin's rousing his troops into battle. Every one of those scenes where he's talking, where he's speaking to his troops, where he's speaking to the scouts, completely cold-blooded dialogue, expertly delivered. Loved it. Now, as far as major complaints, there was two things that were kind of major, but again, I easily overlooked them. But there are two major complaints. The first one, like everyone else, I was tired of waiting nearly 4 years for season 2 to come along, but was really glad when season 2 finally came, and I'm even more glad that it ended on another cliffhanger that hopefully leads to even more interesting things later on in season 3, and more development, more character development, more plot development, etc. Again, annoying 4 years. I know the 4 years was really long between just 2 seasons. But to me, it's very understandable when one looks at the working conditions of animators and animation studios and the state of the anime industry in Japan as a whole. So I won't go into it now, but if you did some more research on it, you'll understand that, yeah, 4 years is a long time, but it's more than understandable why it took that long considering what's going on. And also, from what's been reported, season 3 will be out next year in 2018. So hopefully every season after that is going to be 1 year intervals. And if it is, then I'm going to be more than happy about that. Now, the second complaint. The second thing that a lot of people did complain about was the use of CGI. And normally I'm one of those people that believes that studios are overly reliant on CGI when it comes to how they produce the series that they're working on. In this instance, I would actually have to disagree. I think the people who complained about the CGI in season 2 were going way overboard, and they were blowing things out of proportion. Let me explain. The CGI for Attack on Titan season 2 was minimally used, was used pretty well in my opinion. Were there some times where it looked a little off? Yeah, there were a few, but those were few and far between. It also gave Wit Studio, the studio that animated all of season 1 and 2, it gave them more time to create each episode, and it gave the animators more of a break from actually drawing every scene. Most people don't seem to realize that Wit Studio is one of the studios in Japan that, if I remember correctly, was overbooked when it came to animating multiple different series all at once. So certain series, they had to take a hiatus on them while working on others. So they were actually working on like 3 or 4 other series while they took a break from Attack on Titan. So they were working the entire time, just not on this particular series. So you got to give them a break, people. Come on. So if they can use anything like CGI to cut costs or save time, I say let them do it. We can't complain that it took them 4 years of a hiatus to produce season 2. Then we complain that they used CGI, which allowed them to produce season 2 slightly faster. Because I'm pretty sure that's what it was. It was just giving them more time, giving them more room to actually put the episodes together, to put some of those CGI scenes into the episode. That's all it really does. It saves time. It may save money, and I won't complain that much about it. Especially when you consider how well animated all the episodes have been so far. The CGI is not that big of a deal. So yeah, some of the CGI was wonky maybe, but I don't think it's that big of a deal that in this particular instance. Now, as far as the strongest episode is season 2, and by the way, when I say strongest and weakest episode, it's not good or bad. Don't look at it that way. Strongest episode would be like the one that was the most intense in action, the most intense in character development, character interaction, and moving the plot forward. So both episodes, both the weakest and the strongest episode, are very good episodes. They're just strong and weak in terms of what they did to move the entire plot along. So back to it. As far as strongest episode in season 2, strongest episode of Attack on Titan season 2 to me was a toss-up between episode 6, Warrior, and episode 11, Charge. Both episodes had iconic scenes, awesome scoring, memorable dialogue, and superb animation. So if we look at episode 6, the things that really stood out for me in episode 6 were, in episode 6, Warrior, were Reiner and Bertolt's transformation, the Warrior Suite score, or what some people call the Warrior Suite, and I might even link to that in the description so you can see what I'm talking about, so you can hear it. The intense quotes from Reiner right before he transforms, and his little speech about being a warrior and finishing his mission to the end. And also, finally, the beautiful lines and shadowing that were used to show the emotion that he, Bertolt, and Eren were expressing during the entire scene. How their face looked, just the way that was done was just so nicely done. Hence why that scene on YouTube has like 7 million views right now. That is an iconic scene that people are going to remember for quite a while. Now, episode 11, Charge, to me was also an incredibly strong episode. So let's break down what we saw there. In that episode, we saw Commander Erwin's arm getting ripped off. And despite that, he told his scouts to continue the mission anyway, while he's being ripped away by a Titan, by the shoulder. Then there's the scoring, especially when you see Mikasa rushing towards Reiner and Bertolt. Like, the music placement, perfect music placement. Then there's the almost over the top, almost overly good dialogue by multiple characters, such as Armin when he's speaking to Bertolt, Mikasa when she's speaking to Historia, Erwin when he's rousing the troops, and Bertolt when he's talking to the scouts through Reiner's hands. And finally, the best facial expressions, the best shading, the best detail before, during, and after Eren's rescue. So, as far as I'm concerned, those two episodes, in my opinion, are tied. They're both on a whole different level compared to the rest of the season. Which one, the strongest one, I'm not sure. I think it's a dead heat. Now, as far as the weakest episode, and again, none of the episodes were bad. Every episode of season 2 was awesome, but this episode it was more character driven and didn't really move the plot along. It wasn't as intense or action packed, but it did move the plot along. It did have a lot of things going on for it, for what it did. To me, the weakest of the episodes of season 2 was episode 8, Hunters. And what I mean is that this episode was actually a great poignant episode that really brought more depth into who the main characters are, the main three. And I mean that this episode, like I said, had the least intensity. It had moved the story along the least, but it really showed what was going on in the mindset of Armin and Mikasa, Eren and Hannes, both from earlier and in the current situation. Its purpose was to remind us of who these characters were, how they grew, how they developed, how they got along with each other, and why they feel for each other the way they did. And I think this episode, episode 8, did that splendidly. Now, as far as my favorite episode, not necessarily the best one, but my favorite, I would say was episode 11. And to me, that was just 20 minutes of some of the best dialogue in terms of how the characters spoke to each other. So episode 11, Charge, would be my personal favorite just because of the way the dialogue was set up, the way the characters spoke, how they said it, and the type of emotion that they were evoking when they said the epic things they said. Bertolt gave his emotional speech. Armin was mind-fucking Bertolt. Mikasa was intent on getting Eren back. Erwin was so intense about finishing the mission and rousing his troops even at great personal harm. All that was just on a whole other level of epic. As far as a 1 to 10 score for the entire season, not anyone just one episode, but the entire season from episode 1 to episode 12, I would give the entire season a 9.5 out of 10. Based off of everything that I've seen, everything that I've reviewed in every episode, putting it all together, 9 out of 5. No, 9.5 out of 10. 9.5 out of 10. This entire season was just shy of being perfect. It was almost perfect except for a few very tiny small things. Other than that, completely nice. Loved it all the way through. In conclusion, and I'm going to keep this short and simple as far as the conclusion. Season 2 of Attack on Titan was incredibly well done. I liked it, appreciated it, and was more than satisfied with the results. Also, I feel I do need to do this because I'm not sure how many people are aware of this, but I feel like this needs to be done, even in a small way. A special mention to Wit Studio. Wit Studio is the production team that made both Attack on Titan Season 1 and Season 2 possible, and they'll most likely be the ones working on the subsequent seasons in the next coming couple of years. So I want to break down some things that I actually pulled directly from Wit Studio's website, and you're going to see a link to the website in the description box. This is pulled directly from Wit Studio's website, so I apologize if it sounds a tad off, but in order from top to bottom. And it says original Asayama Wound. I'm not sure if I'm reading that right, but that's what it says. Separate Volume Boys Magazine Serialization / Kodansha. These are the guys that actually did the work to produce the seasons and the episodes that we all enjoy. General Manager is Tetsuro Araki. The season was directed by Masashi Hozuka. Series composition was done by Yasuka Kobayashi. Character design was done by Kyoji Asano. Total drawing director was done by Kyoji Asano / Satoshi Kadawaki / Ayumi Yamada. Assistant director was Hiroyuki Tanaka. Action drawing director was Fumi Imai / Yukoi Seki / Takuma Hu. Art setting was done by Yachiho Taniyushi. Giant setting was done by Chiba Takaki. I know I'm probably butchering these. Prop design was done by Hisa Takuma. Color design was done by Ken Hashimoto. The art director was Shunichiro Yoshihara. 3D CG director was Shigeto Hirozumi. 3D CG producer was Shuei Ushida. Director of photography was Yamada Hiroyuki. Editing was done by Hidina Sentence. Acoustic supervision was done by Masumi Mima. Music and scoring, the epic music and scoring, I love you for this. Hiroyuki Sawano, you are awesome. The sound effects were done by Shizuo Kuruhashi. And then it says sound production, techno sound, and animation production. There's no names next to that, but it ends with Wit Studio 2017. And I just want to close with, and I actually might make a video on this later on from my YouTube channel, so you'll probably see this in the near future. But I do want to point out that the animator, as an animators in general, is one of the most overlooked and unacknowledged professions of the modern age. Animation studios in general never seem to get the credit that they deserve, and Wit Studio is no different. That's why I decided to take the time out and shout out all the employees that work there. Without them, Attack on Titan as an anime would not exist. So Wit Studio and everyone that works there, you are awesome. Love you guys. You do beautiful work. Really appreciate what you did here, and can't wait till you come out with seasons 3, 4, 5, and whatever else seasons that you're going to come out with for this particular series. Awesome, awesome work. And with that, that's the end of the series of review videos. And like I said, I'm going to link to some of the music that was used in the series. I'm going to link to the playlist that I made for this review series that I made. Hope you guys enjoyed watching it. I know that I enjoyed producing it. Please like, subscribe, share, and donate to support this channel and help me produce more videos and video content. You guys have a great day. I'm out. Peace.